I recently had someone ask me to do a video talking about LGBTQ plus influencer and, you know, cosmetics guru, Jeffree Star. I used to be a huge fan of Jeffree Star way back in the late 2000s and early 2010s before Jeffree Star said some incredibly problematic things. And then I was just like, no, not doing that anymore. And of course, over the years, I mean, this has been like 10 years, 15 years when you think about it, Jeffree Star has gotten into a lot of controversies, especially around the time of the pandemic, literally going on podcasts and, saying that they them pronouns are ridiculous and essentially saying that non-binary identities don't exist. Even going as far as gloating that, he has a lot of or a lot of conservative followers and listeners because they love the fact that he is no nonsense and that even though he is a part of the LGBTQ plus community, he's one of the good ones. And it really makes me sad to see someone elevating that type of stance because I do know, and as one of those people who used to be this way, like a lot of LGBTQ plus people sought refuge in Jeffree Star for the longest time. And now they don't necessarily have that because of these types of statements. In fact, as recently as a couple of days ago, Jeffree Star, like in a live, was having a conversation and basically said, "Thank God, if you believe in they thems, you're part of the problem," end quote. And then went on to quote saying, "If you're stupid enough to go against science, please unfollow me." Um, and then went on to say, "Be whoever you want to be, but there's science and there's facts. You can pretend in your head you're a cat, but you're still only A or B." So clearly, like that statement in of itself was very like dismissive and discriminatory and aimed at the trans and non-binaries community, literally reducing those communities and what they've gone through and the self-actualization that they work toward reaching as being delusional, essentially, which is horrifying, to say to an entire group of people. And of course, very much a conservative talking point that we see very frequently on the right. Now, I've made this video talking about like James Charles before. Like I recently went as far as talking about like how James Charles has weaponized gay loneliness. And I think that Jeffree Star is not an exact example of what James Charles represents, but is an example of how when a person in the LGBTQ plus community reaches celebrity status and that level of privilege where they are essentially untouchable, like when you look at the root of them, you will see that they are who they choose to surround themselves with. And if you look at who Jeffree Star has surrounded himself with recently in recent years, there are a lot of conservative voices speaking. There are a lot of like conservative mindsets that he has surrounded himself with. And of course, as a result now, makes these statements at the expense of the rest of the LGBTQ plus community. And I think the cruel reality that we have to accept as members of the LGBTQ plus community is that even though we're optimistic and we expect the LGBTQ plus influencers and celebrities we look to work toward being their best modes of representation for our community and to consider what impacts our community, not all of them are going to be that way. In fact, we will quickly realize like the true intentions of them as they kind of fully immerse themselves in that privilege, right? And Jeffree Star is one of those people. So, but those are my thoughts on Jeffree Star. If you are still a supporter of his and you still like consume that content, like just know that I don't really think Jeffree Star cares about the well-being of the rest of the LGBTQ plus community like he used to. And I recommend going and supporting creators who do, because I think that it's important to invest in the people who use their privilege to uplift all of us, not some of us. And for someone like him to be so dismissive and discriminatory towards the trans and non-binary communities, how far or how long will it take before he starts doing that to the entire LGBTQ plus community, right? Once you harm one of us, we are all harmed. And it just is sad. It's unfortunate to see someone in the community doing this. I mean, you could make the same argument of Caitlyn Jenner, right? Another example of a conservative LGBTQ plus person who has used their platform and their rhetoric weaponized against the rest of the LGBTQ plus community in some capacity. So, anyway, share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you for listening as always. I know that we live in some really unsettling times, my friends, but know that we're in this together and that, you know, we can continue working toward creating and sustaining a better community where we can all be who we are and all uplift one another. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.